I could make a Pearl Harbor joke, but that would seem distasteful. So let's just talk about 1942.
This is the introduction song. It's not very good, but it's not too long.
So, alternate history is actually one of my favorite small genres, and it's kind of a shame that they don't make more books in this genre, because I actually really like it. And this one in particular is an idea that I haven't really heard about before, because you hear about a lot about, like, oh, what if Germany won World War II? What if Germany won World War I? But this one is just specifically about Pearl Harbor. In real life, the Japanese had three objectives when they bombed Pearl Harbor. There was destroy the American battleships, which they did. There was destroy the American aircraft carriers and cruisers, which they didn't do because the ships were out on doing exercises, so they weren't in the harbor that day. And there was destroy the oil facilities. And if they destroyed the oil facilities, then it would mean that the harbor couldn't even be used as a base for a while until it got repaired. And that second mission didn't take off because Admiral Chuichi Nagumo was kind of nervous about it, so he didn't do it. And this book just says, hey, what if he had decided to go ahead with it and it had succeeded? And it's a neat idea, actually, because it basically means that American military presence in Hawaii would be gone completely. Like, all the ships would have to return to California, or they'd just be dead in the water, literally. Like, they would have no way of defending or repairing themselves from the Japanese, and it's pretty interesting. This book does that, and the Japanese actually invade and occupy Hawaii as well. And so it's a neat idea, certainly, to think of all that sort of warfare and battling taking place in Hawaii, which it never happened in real life. Beyond that, though, this book is kind of, not bad or anything. It's a very interesting idea, just, it's characters, the writing is, the action, there's not much to say beyond, it's a cool idea. So, specifically, when I say the writing is I mean, it's very exposition heavy, especially at the beginning. Like, it's explaining a lot of things, which, to be fair, if you're not a history buff or anything, then you wouldn't know most of what they say. So it is understandable that they'd have to explain some of it, but it just goes on for paragraphs and paragraphs at times. Especially about what specific types of weapons and how ships work and all that. And I thought it was interesting personally, but there was just a small part of the back of my brain telling me that it was annoying. And if you feel the same way, I wouldn't blame you. And also, none of the characters really talk right, at least at times. For the most part it's fine, but then other times they just sort of talk clunky and weird. I'm not even quite sure how to explain it. It's just they talk weird. We'll just leave it at that. As for characters, I don't even want to talk about them because they're just kind of boring and dumb. There's one or two that are kind of interesting, but they're all villains and they're all assholes. Like, the only character who I kind of liked in this, and he was a real person, was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, who was basically in charge of the entire Japanese Navy at the time. And he was kind of interesting, but he's also barely in the book, so there's not much to say there. As for other villains, there's these two Kempete, which is the Japanese secret police, that were working on Hawaii to get rid of insurgency and all that sort of thing. And there's two of them, the two people in charge. There's Colonel Amori and his lieutenant, Uji Goto. And at first I kind of liked Amori, but then as time went on I realized they're both fucking cartoony in terms of villainy. Like they aren't just, you know, military people doing their job for, like, the glory of Japan or anything. They're fucking... They're fucking rapists. They kill people. Uji Goto, specifically, is a pedophile and enjoys torturing people. Like, it's just cartoony how over the top it is with just how evil those two are. And to be frank, the Japanese military at that time committed horrific war crimes. Like, as much as Shinzo Abe and his ilk want us to pretend that things like the rape of Nanking didn't happen, they happened, okay? Like, if you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's, the Japanese military looted a city in China and killed around 300,000 people in horrific ways that I'm really not going to go into detail with. But, yeah, this book takes a little bit of, inspiration from that and things like the Bataan Death March as well, and it just shows them committing horrific war crimes to people in Hawaii and U.S. military. And again, it's not totally unrealistic, so I do appreciate that, but it also paints a very clear black and white good and evil thing with the book. And again, Omori and Goto are just fucking cartoony, so it's a little annoying. Also, there's a couple of, I don't want to say plot holes, but inconsistencies in the book. Like, the Japanese military mentions at a couple points that there's 3 races in Hawaii, which are the Japanese Hawaiians, the white American Hawaiians, and the Hawaiian Hawaiians, the Native Hawaiians, I should say. But that's not correct at all. Like, that's leaving out the Filipinos, the Koreans, the Chinese. And even later in the book, they mention that there are Chinese on the islands, and so I'm just thinking, well, what? So, yeah, he gets a couple of things wrong, and I guess I should blame the editor for that, really. Or maybe he just... Yeah, I really don't know what was going on there. But there's a couple little inconsistencies like that. They never bothered me too much, because honestly they are pretty small, but it gets grating. This book, for the most part, was kind of a neat action-adventure story. You know, nothing... it's basically like a popcorn movie, you know, just enjoy what little there is. There's some neat fighting scenes and everything, but towards the climax it gets kind of rushed. And it also seems to be, like, really jerking off America, also. I mean, I've read one of Robert Conroy's other books, and it was 1920, America's Great War, and that one was way worse in that regard. It also just wasn't as good of a book to begin with. But, yeah, like, towards the climax of this book, it really feels like it's trying to portray the American military as this perfect machine, I guess, which makes no mistakes ever and gets really lucky all the time. And it's I mean, it's not the worst example of something like that I've ever seen, but it was a little annoying, and it did feel like a Deus Ex Machina at the end. Also, for whatever reason, Robert Conroy really seems to hate Henry Wallace, who was vice president of the US at the time. I'm not quite sure why, but he mentions repeatedly how Henry Wallace is basically a communist and how much the other characters hate him. And they never actually have Henry Wallace in the book, and they never show anyone defend him either, so I guess Robert Conroy has some sort of beef with Henry Wallace. I really don't know. It was weird. So, other than that, there's not much to say. Like I said, it's pretty much just a popcorn action-adventure flick, or book, and in that regard, I've seen a lot worse, honestly. This one was fine. Again, it is a very neat idea, but if you're not interested in that sort of thing, then I'd say skip it. Comment, please. Subscribe, please. Thank you.